Hey guys, I'm Jenna with Stahls, and thank you so much for joining this live webinar where we're going to be discussing all of the different heat press accessories that you can utilize to print really unique items, maybe get unique placements on hard to print items, and some other things that are really important when it comes to offering different items that can sometimes be hard to heat print if you're not utilizing an accessory. And why this is important is because as a heat printer, you want to be able to go beyond just basic t-shirts. So there's a lot of different placements and popular things that you can be heat printing that heat press accessories just make your life so much easier. So we're going to review what those accessories are, and then we're going to be doing some projects. And I'm going to open up the chat here so I can see you guys. I'm going to answer any questions that you guys have, and we're just going to be super interactive. So feel free to type in any questions you have, comments, concerns, whatever, and I'll be sure to visit that throughout. And then, of course, we'll have a quick Q&A at the end of the session as well. So thanks again so much for joining. Let's go ahead and dive in. So the first thing that I want to review with you guys is the heat printing pillow. The heat printing pillow is basically a foam pad that is covered with a Teflon cover. And this Teflon allows you to slip in and out of items with ease so that it's not getting stuck or real hard to a specific item where you're trying to isolate a certain area and print very easily. So these pillows are really going to help out with that. And that Teflon cover sheet is also going to help because these are a non-stick type of fabric. So if any adhesives or anything were to get on here, then it wouldn't stick to it. So it would be able to. So the heat printing pillows, once again, this is what they look like. So it's a foam pad. I'm going to re-show this one just because we were in a very small screen there. So the foam pad in there you can see pretty well, and then it's covered with a Teflon-like fabric so that it has a no-stick type of cover over top of it. This is really helpful for whenever you're sliding into items, especially if it's a small area of a garment. And we offer these in a variety of sizes. So you can see we have 11 by 15, we have small 6 by 10s, we have a long skinny one that works perfect for loading into sleeves of hoodies or sweatpants or leggings, and then also a larger size. So this one isn't our largest. We do have a 16 by 20 that goes even bigger. So if you are working with a 16 by 20 heat press, we have pillows for the small 9 by 12 press, so I don't necessarily need the 16 by 20. So I just went up to this size, which I can't remember the exact dimensions of off the top of my head, but it's just the size down right from the 16 by 20. And this even exceeds the dimensions of the 9 by 12. So it's not very often that I use this, but if I have oversized designs where I can hit it a couple times with the heat press, I will definitely utilize this one. It really helps for hoodies where you have thick seams where the hood is attached to the collar, and then of course the thick seams where the pocket goes on the hoodies as well. So this is a really great pillow for that. And these other ones, like I said, this is great for legs and sleeves of garments, isolating left chest, or doing small apparel like youth and infant, and then any youth or ladies like slim fit tees. This one works really great for. So you may be wondering why accessories are a necessity. Well, certainly for all those reasons we've already discussed, but also if you are working with a heat press that doesn't allow you to have threadability or interchangeable plattens. And that is another reason why I have to use these accessories for a lot of my applications, because this press does not offer either of those. So you can see here the footprint at the bottom of this heat press is there isn't any space under there. If you compare this heat press to a variety of the other ones that we offer, there's a huge open space. And when I talk about those heat presses, I'm specifically talking about the Fusion and the Air models, and the Swing Away model or Draw model, and then also the clam style that can attach to a caddy. So it looks like this in a larger form, 16 by 20, it's silver, and it attaches to a counter caddy or a floor caddy, which lets it set up and has a stand all by itself. And what those accessories that the clam attaches to allows for is threadability, so that I could take an item such as this jacket here and open it up and thread it on so that I'm only working with one surface area. So threadability is key to be able to isolate a certain print area of a garment so that no obstructions are getting in the way, or you're just not having any wrinkles from the back of the garment or anything causing an even pressure. So anytime you're working with heat transfers, the keys are getting the perfect time, temperature, and the last is pressure. And sometimes we don't get the accurate pressure because we don't use the right accessories. And this press, because it doesn't have the threadability or the interchangeable platins, that's why these accessories are going to be extremely helpful for isolating certain areas and doing really unique items, such as this, which we'll be doing a little bit later. And having a successful heat print so that you can offer more than just t-shirts and hoodies. You can do like outdoor jackets and sweatpants and beanies and bags and things like that. Right, so that's heat printing pillows. The reason these are different from some of the other accessories we offer, such as the heat printing pads, which we'll review here shortly, is that this foam actually sinks down whenever the pressure of the upper heating element locks down so that we can heat apply accurately, and any zippers or buttons or seams that are in the way will actually sink down into the foam, but keep the area that's being printed raised. All right, so that is the purpose and features that the pillows will help out with for your graphics and your heat printing. So then we move on to pads. I'm gonna adjust my screen once more. All right, so the pads are definitely a lot thicker than the pillows. Honestly, remind me of a mouse pad, and I even know some of our customers just from talking at trade shows and just talking about different best practices that they utilize for their business. They'll use mouse pads for these too, but they'll stack them up to get a more dense pad under there to really raise the area. And what this is ultimately replacing in my mind are those interchangeable platins, because this is very similar to the pad that is on top of those platins. It's a cushiony enough surface so that you're not getting any bruising on your garment, but it's thick enough and firm enough that if you put it in under a garment, it will raise it, and any buttons or zippers or any type of obstruction on the garment won't cause this to, or won't cause that design to not apply accurately. So this is the best substitute for an interchangeable platen, because you are definitely getting a nice firm pressure every time. Even though it's cushiony so that it's not causing, once again, any bruising, it's still very, very firm. And the last accessory that we are going to review is the flexible application pad. So this one, it falls under the pads category because it is a very unique but sustainable and practical accessory for heat printing, because it's going to help you heat print heat sensitive items without melting or scorching that or compromising the finish of the blank that you're heat applying. So we'll actually be heat applying this beanie, utilizing that, and also some leather, so that you can see how this really, really helps any melting or anything. So this pad is a silicone thick pad, and it works like a cover sheet. So once you put your item down and you heat up, or you place your transfer down, you'll cover that item with this cover sheet and heat apply it for the recommended application. But whenever you are using this, you will always add an additional 10 seconds to that recommended time. So for example, if I'm applying fashion film and I know it applies at 15 seconds, I will increase my time to 25 seconds, but keep the temperature the same and the pressure the same. So that is what this cover sheet does. A lot of people have had a ton of success with this, especially if they're printing heat sensitive items that they're experiencing a lot of scorching with or any melting at all. All right, so that's the review of the accessories we're going to be utilizing today. So let's go ahead and actually dive into projects so you can actually see these items in action and how they really work. All right, so the first application we're going to be doing is this anorak. All right, so this is a nylon anorak. This is sourced from an independent trading company. And again, like I mentioned earlier, this is all about going beyond just basic t-shirts. So we're going to be doing some really unique items today and showing you how you can successfully heat print them with these accessories so that you can build more profit opportunity in your business. And these accessories will really help you with that. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is take the item and load it onto the platen where the area is that I'll actually be heat applying. So we're going to be doing the left chest. So I'm going to load that onto my platen, make sure the hood's falling into the back. And what I'm going to do is take my Print Perfect pad and load it in there underneath, like through the zipper, and isolate the area that I want to heat apply. So if I'm doing a left chest logo, I want to make sure I'm center of where the seam meets the collar and drop about 6 inches down from there. And I'm only going to be about 2 to 3 fingers over from the zipper. All right, so this is my left chest logo. The product that we're going to be utilizing for this is AquaTrue. Right, and AquaTrue is a really great product. But before I actually place that, I want to test my pressure. So anytime you're working with these accessories, it's important that you increase your pressure because we need to test that. You don't want it to be too firm to the point where you're potentially scorching your garment or leaving any bruising. Right, so I'm going to dial my pressure back a good bit. So anytime an accessory is being utilized on that platen, always test your pressure to make sure you're at an accurate feel based off of how you're locking that down. All right, and since this is a screen print transfer, I don't have to worry about using a cover sheet. The sheet that the ink is applied to works as a cover sheet. All right, AquaTrue is a water-based ink. So for those of you that aren't familiar with this product, it's a really, really great product for nylons, polyesters, any heat-sensitive fabrics. And it's a water-based ink, so it feels amazing on the fabric. So this is a hot peel. I can go ahead and peel that back. And my left chest is complete. All right, so anytime you're working with a garment like this, you also want to consider all the print areas you can take advantage of and how those accessories can help you print more of an item. All right, so since there is a ton of area that I can work with on this jacket, what more can I print to build more profit opportunity for this particular item? And a lot of popular placements for anoraks are the left chest, the front pocket, and also the back. So I'm going to show you how to heat apply the front pocket successfully with a heat printing pillow. So what I'm going to do for this is, since this is a bigger item, I can actually thread this a little bit and have the rest of my garment drop down. So I don't have to worry about loading in a pillow or anything like that. But if I was working with a larger sized heat press, I would want to utilize this heat printing pillow. All right, so that would allow that pocket seam to sit right on top, and we would still get a successful application for this by utilizing that. Since I have the perfect dimensions for this print, and the rest of it can drop off, I don't have to utilize an accessory for this. But if I was working with a 16 by 20, that's whenever I would want to consider my accessory and use a heat printing pillow there. Right, just dialing down my pressure there to make sure we get an accurate adhesion. All right, so Michael says works great with tri-blend. So if you're referencing the flexible application pad, yes, it does really work well with tri-blends because they have rayon in them and polyester, and those are two fabrics that are super heat sensitive. All right, so overall, we were able to get really two great placements utilizing heat press accessories if we need to. So we definitely needed to with the left chest logo because we have that zipper here that would definitely cause uneven pressure. So we needed to get that out of the way. So we utilized that Print Perfect pad underneath to raise this area and heat apply. For this one, once again, the 9 by 12 dimensions of my heat press worked perfectly. So I didn't need an accessory. And if you think about it and you're working with larger heat presses that have interchangeable platens, that would be, it's kind of like a light bulb. I could use an interchangeable platen if I needed to instead of having to insert a heat printing pillow. So it's just really knowing what accessories you have available to you and knowing, you know, when is going to work best or which is going to work best when. All right, so again, that is AquaTrue on a Nylon Anorak, and the Anorak is sourced from Independent Trading Company. And you can find that brand on SNS Activewear if you guys are interested in working with that. All right, so the next application we're gonna do, we'll definitely have to use a heat printing pillow for, are these pair of sweatpants. All right, so we're still going to use AquaTrue for this because there were a ton of designs like this on the large sheet that all the designs come on from Transfer Express. So the obstructions that we need to avoid to get an accurate application on these sweatpants are this pocket, all right? So that's a really thick seam there that would definitely cause uneven pressure. So we're gonna wanna drop the design right about here. So we'll be pretty close to that seam, but the pillow is going to help with that application. In addition to that, the seam on the side of the pants are pretty thick too because they overlap. So that will cause a ton of uneven pressure on both here and here. And since my design is going to be very close to both of those seams, that's where that heat printing pillow is going to come into play and allow me to get an even pressure. All right, so I just take the pillow from the waistband down through the pant leg. And then I'm just gonna lay that right on my heating element here. Now this is a large design, which is larger than the dimensions of my heat press. So this is going to be a two-step application on the 9 by 12 press because it is so large. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is test my pressure. And since pillows are foam, you wanna make sure you're locking it down all the way and kind of adjusting your pressure based off of how it feels once you lock it down. All right, so my first application is going to be the top piece, making sure I'm not too close to that seam, but still in line, straight down the pant leg, and that I'm still on that pillow as well. So I'm gonna adjust that a little bit. You can feel the pillow through the sweatpants and where it starts to trail off. So just make sure your design is completely lined up with that pillow as much as possible so that you're definitely getting even pressure across the entire design. All right, so once you lock it down, the heat press does the rest of the work. All right, so Vicky asked, I get asked to do a lot of sleeves and I'm never quite sure how far down to go, especially on Raglan sleeves. So Raglan sleeves can definitely be a little tough because of how far up the sleeve meets the collar. So you have to probably go for about 4 to 5 inches down so that it's at least starting on the shoulder. But a shoulder or right here of the sleeve is a really good starting point if you are heat printing sleeves. Sometimes it even helps to work backwards where the raglan sleeve actually stops, because if you wanted it to be lower on the arm, which is another standard placement for sleeves, then you could start from the bottom and then work your way up. That's another practice that you could use. All right, so I just adjusted the pillow a little bit further down to get the accurate placement. And you can see that we got a nice overall print there with the AquaTrue utilizing that pillow. So I would have never been able to get this accurate of an application by just laying this pant leg right on there because of those seams. So by utilizing that pillow, we can really raise an area and isolate it so that we're not too concerned about that pressure not working out. All right, so pressure is definitely key to getting a quality product out to your customer. All right, so the next application we are going to do is a onesie, because infant apparel is a really hot seller, especially for heat printers or people that are doing a ton of personalization. And whenever you're working with onesies, you have to consider all the obstructions that come along with them, especially this style, which is very popular. It's styled a lot like the vintage t-shirt jerseys, where it has the seam right across the chest. You get thick seams from the sleeves, and there's really no way to avoid a lot of these obstructions. The buttons, not so much, because they typically fall off of the heat press. But it's mainly this area where all those thick seams are that cause the uneven pressure. So if I were to just lay this on there as is, the buttons are all the way off. I don't have a concern so much for them, but all of these seams would definitely get hit before my design ever would. All right, so this heat printing pillow, my small one, is going to really help me isolate that area by just threading it inside my onesie here. And now these are falling off to the side, the seams from the sleeves, and this seam that goes across the chest is going to sink down into that pillow, but keep the area that I'm heat applying raised so that I get an accurate pressure. Okay, so of course we want to test our pressure. We're going to be using glitter flakes, so a light to medium pressure is good. And now I can get really close to that seam so that my design doesn't seem too far down and not have an issue with application. I just want to make sure that my design is definitely on the pillow, or else I will get a piece of this that doesn't heat apply. All right, there we go. All right, so looks like no more questions are coming in. All right. And glitter flakes a hot peel too, so we can just peel that back. And the design is complete. All right, and this onesie is sourced from Rabbit Skins, which is an LAT apparel brand. Right, but you can see how close we got to that seam there without any pressure issue. That's not like picking up at all. But if I were to have just laid that on there at that point, that would start to lift up, and it would seem as though the product failed, but ultimately it was just the pressure from that really thick seam. All right, so next one we're going to get into some heat sensitive fabrics. And these are my favorite because a lot of people try to steer clear of heat printing sensitive things that could potentially melt underneath the high heat. So this is really going to help build confidence and just kind of thinking outside the box and different things that you can actually heat apply so that you can offer unique items and just build more value in your brand as a heat printer. All right, so for this one, this is sourced from Wholesale Boutique. It's a little wristlet. And you can see there's leather on here right on this panel. So we're actually going to be personalizing that with glitter flake. And this leather is actually known as vegan leather. It's what Viv & Lou, which is the brand from Wholesale Boutique that makes this, that's how they brand or market their faux leather. So anytime you're working with faux leather, just know that there is plastic in that fabric. So you need to make sure that you are not melting that. Faux leather has a tendency to bubble up and create what looks like measles almost on the fabric. So if you're not super careful about how you're heat applying it, that could definitely happen. And then you ruin the blank, which is a pretty, it's not as inexpensive as some of the wholesale bags that we're used to, such as Liberty bags from S&S Activewear. These are a bit pricier because they're retail ready as is. And then you're just building more value in it by adding someone's initials or name or whatever to personalize it for your customer. So we need to take extra precaution whenever we're considering how we should heat apply this. So we're also going to be using the heat printing pad here by inserting that and avoiding this zipper in here from coming through to the top and causing uneven pressure there as well. So there's a lot of things to consider when you're working with bags. Definitely one is the inside and where that zipper is, and then any obstruction on the outside as well, including the zippers. So luckily the zipper is metal, so we don't really have to worry about that melting. But if you're sourcing bags and you're not sure, just make sure you're being positive that this is a metal zipper as opposed to plastic. All right, so we're going to place our monogram down. And I need to dial back my pressure actually and test this before I heat apply. And before I test the pressure, I'm also going to use a cover sheet to make sure we're not melting that leather. We don't have to use the flexible application pad just yet because we're not locking it down for the full duration, so we don't have to worry about melting it. All right, so what I'm gonna do is just tack this. So anytime you're working with glitter flake, you'll notice that there are glitter specks on the carrier. Also, the edges of the carrier could also melt into the leather. So what we have to do with heat transfer vinyl, whenever we are personalizing leather with it, we need to tack the product first before applying for the full application. So what I'm going to do, since this is a hot peel product, that means it has the tacking method and it works just fine with it. So I'm going to lock this down for just 3 seconds and peel that carrier back. All right, so you can see that it heat applied, no melting or anything, but now we need to cure this for the full application. So how we do that is put it right back down, cover with that flexible application pad. And as I mentioned earlier, this pad works best whenever you're adding 10 seconds additionally to your recommended time. So we know glitter flake applies for 10 seconds, so we have to apply this for 20 with that pad on there. Okay, so we'll lock that down and the press will do the rest for me. All right, so Leah asked, should we preheat the garment with the pad? Yes, so anytime, no matter what accessory you're using, always make sure you're preheating your garment. If I skipped that step, it's because I forgot, but just know you always want to preheat anytime you are working with something that is definitely going to be laundered. All right, so there it is complete. You can see the leather texture stayed true. We didn't compromise the finish of the bag. Nothing melted. The zippers still work. All right, so that is a super easy way to add personalization and just, build unique value in your business by offering really unique products like this and do it successfully with the right heat press accessories. All right, and Claudia asked, what is the difference between using the pad and the pillow? The pad has more density to it, so it's actually going to raise an area, and the pillow is going to actually sink something down into it. I hope that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense, I'll try to explain it differently, but let me know if you get what I'm saying. Jeff asks, what bag is this? This is from Viv and Lou. It is the Buffalo Check Wristlet. All right, so you can find this from Wholesale Boutique, and the brand is Viv and Lou. Right, and Joy asked, what temp did you use? I'm at 300 degrees. Right, so Glitter Flake applies at 302, but since I'm doing a variety of different products, that would be why I'm set at 300 is just my standard. But this would definitely apply at 302. All right, and last but not least, our next heat sensitive item is the acrylic beanie. So any of you that are familiar with working with acrylic beanies, they are a tough time, and there's definitely specific acrylic beanies you want to source. This one is from Pennant Sportswear, right? And it has a metallic thread woven throughout to make it look glittery. And we are going to be applying it with CAD Prints Twill. Right, I actually got this out of the custom logos package as a sample pack, and we send you a bunch of really cool logos like this to test with and show your customers. So this, I'm going to be dropping right on here and heat applying, and I'm going to be, and I don't have to really worry about raising the area at all because I can just drop this on the side where I want to personalize. And since this is folded over and I'm pressing on the thickest part, I don't have to really worry about inserting anything. Now, if I were to be pressing up here where this thick like fold would be getting in the way, then I would want to insert something if I was going to press up here. But since I'm just doing the bottom edge, I can leave it as is and not have to worry about using an accessory to raise the area. However, the accessory we will be using is that flexible application pad. Now, whenever you're considering the product that you want to use on acrylic beanies, you want to consider what is going to have dimension to it. Because when you're working with acrylic, we all know it has a high stretch to it. We want to make sure we're not using a super thin vinyl, because whenever this stretches, you can see that these threads actually are woven so that they're more, the word is like, I'm not even getting it. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it. I'm just going to leave it. It's fine. But these are actually, it's ribbed. There it is. Simple word. I couldn't think of it. So these are actually ribbed. And if you are putting a thin heat transfer vinyl on there and this stretches, it's going to tear because the adhesive doesn't sink down into where those ribbed seams are, right? So use a thick product such as CAD Prints Twill. A great heat transfer vinyl that works well with it is Flock 2 and silicone, all right? Silicone is another great dimensional product that feels and looks great on beanies. So make sure you're using anything with dimension and you can successfully heat apply these beanies. Now, whenever I was showing you this beanie up close, you probably noticed how tightly woven the acrylic is. Those are the type of beanies that you want to be able to source if you're going to be heat applying them. The tighter the weave is in the product, the more success you are going to have for heat applying this type of blank. All right, so if I was using a beanie that is more of like a sweater, it just doesn't have, it's too porous and the adhesive won't adhere well to it, and it's too stretchy and flimsy, and it will melt more than a tightly woven one will. All right, so I'm just gonna replace this because I'm a little close to the bottom there. All right, we're gonna cover that completely and make sure we are at the accurate time. Right, so this typically applies for 25 seconds, so I want to apply this for 35 seconds. I forgot to test my pressure, so we'll adjust that. There we go. All right, so that'll count down to 35 seconds for me. All right, so Vicky asks, is CAD Prints Twill available to purchase for a print cut? Yes, so you can, well, two ways. You can buy twill and sublimate it and cut and laser cut it if you have the technology to do that. If you don't have the technology, you can upload your artwork, and I can actually show you where that's done because sometimes people miss it on our website. So I try to point it out as much as possible. So let me share my screen with you here for a second. All right, so up at the top of our website, you'll see Artwork Uploader. That is where you can upload your art. So let me log in here for a second. So you can actually browse what artwork you want to. So it accepts all of these different file types. And then let's see here, let me upload something. Once you upload it, it's going to give you a little snippet of the art that you uploaded, and then you can pinpoint exactly what you want to order. So if I want to order the CAD prints Twill that I'm demonstrating now, you can select CAD prints, and then you'll select digital transfers / logos. And then it's going to ask you a series of questions. So let's just say for this example, we're doing 100% polyester. It's going on dark. I don't need a split front. It's going to pinpoint exactly what you can order. So I can do perma twill, which is the CAD prints twill I'm heat applying now. And then you can also do a texture twill that has a little bit more of a pattern throughout the twill. It looks textured. It's really cool. So that's how you order that if you just want to be able to order it already done for you, ready to heat apply. Now, if you wanted to do this, it's definitely a process, but if you're planning on doing it in bulk, I recommend making the investment in just ordering twill in bulk, sublimating your designs, and contour cutting it with a laser, right? So laser is definitely the type of cutter that we recommend because it will actually singe the edges of the twill so that you're not getting any fraying or anything. Now, if you're just planning on embroidering it around the edges, which is an option as well, you can also just vinyl cut the twill, ultimately, if you're going to be embroidering around it. And we offer sew files with it as well. All right. All right, so looks like we're getting some more questions in. Let me show you the result of this and then we'll revisit the comment section. All right, so that's complete. We have a completed customized beanie here. It's still gonna let me stretch, but it's not gonna tear anything. It's almost like it was just embroidered. So typically that is how people are adding personalization or custom logos onto beanies. But this is definitely game changing. It allows you to just heat apply it with that flexible application pad, and it gives you a very similar result to embroidery because it's still a twill, right? So no melting, didn't keep it from stretching at all, but just in that one little area where the patch is, obviously it's not going to stretch because the adhesive is holding it together, right? But really great option. Beanies are really, really popular. So if you can't offer this, it's just going to help you build more of a customer base and just show that you can do more than just t-shirts. Right. So Claudia asked, can you heat press real leather? Yes, you can. It's going to work the same way. So I have tested actually real leather pad folios and real leather purses in the past, and they've all worked just the same. Just make sure you're following the same instructions that we did for the faux leather, and you'll get the same result. Marcus says, we use Fusion IQ, and the pressure is always a question I have when adding pillows, print pads, or smaller print surfaces. Is there a rule of thumb to adjust pressure? Yes, so anytime you are loading in a smaller surface area, that means that you are applying more pressure to that small area. So typically if you're working with a Fusion IQ and it gives you a pressure readout and you're applying a product that applies at a firm pressure, you're actually going to want to apply that at a lighter pressure. So Fusion IQs, if you're working with the standard draw or swing model, then it'll give you a pressure readout of 1 to 9. 1 to 3 is light, 3 to 6 is, or 4 to 6 is medium, and 5 to 9 is 7 to 9 is a heavy pressure. So technically, if you are pressing a small isolated area that has a raised surface to it, like this pad, for example, it is going to be applying more pressure to a smaller area if you are staying at a firm pressure. So if you're at a firm pressure and you've isolated it to a small surface area, then you actually want to dial your pressure back and not do such a firm pressure. Of course, testing and getting a feel for where the pressure is at will help, but ultimately the pressure is gauged off of a 16 by 20 surface. So if you're making that small, maybe to a 6 by 10 surface, then you want to actually dial the pressure back from as firm as it would be. So doing lighter pressures that read out on the press are ultimately going to give you the better application whenever you're isolating such a small area. I hope I answered that well. I felt like I was all over the place. All right, Zachary asked, this may be a little off subject, but is there a reusable cover sheet that you recommend for sublimation? You can use the Teflon cover sheets. However, although we use this as a reusable cover sheet because it's super durable and long lasting, sublimation will actually adhere to this. So if sublimation ink attaches to this and I go to apply something else, that sublimation ink could potentially transfer onto something. So although this is a great reusable cover sheet for heat transfer vinyl, I would recommend using craft paper, which actually comes in a larger sheet. I just have it trimmed down for this. But these are really great throwaway sheets that are better for sublimation because if ink gets on this, it's an easier throwaway. They come in a pack of 25 for like $10. And then you can keep reusing this over and over again. And eventually, whenever it gets filled up with sublimation, you can just throw away and grab another one. All right, and let's see what else we have. What kind of transfer is best to use for a photo image onto a shirt? So it's definitely going to be our printable digital media if you're looking for a heat transfer vinyl solution. However, if you're working with something that is 100% polyester and is in a light color, sublimation is a great option as well. The biggest difference between the two is that a sublimation transfer is having the ink cure directly into the fabric. So the design is actually becoming one with the garment, and heat transfer vinyl is actually laying on top. All right, so that's the biggest difference. If you're looking for a great look and feel, then sublimation, I recommend on 100% polyester, of course. But if you're working with any other substrates that aren't 100% polyester, then a heat transfer vinyl is going to be your best bet. So I recommend our soft opaque. It's our thinnest printable media. And it's only actually 40 microns thick or 45 microns thick, which is half the thickness of all of our other printable heat transfer vinyl. So definitely check out soft opaque. I think that would be a good solution for you if you're not doing 100% polyester. All right, and Vicky asked, can the Twill be eco-solvent printed? So we don't offer a Twill that works with eco-solvent inks. Just right now, it can be sublimated only. So right now, I don't even think there are any Twills on the market that can be run through an eco-solvent printer. I could be totally wrong, but I don't remember seeing any. All right, so it looks like we have all the questions answered. I hope I didn't miss any. Joy, I can't remember if I asked you what temp did you use for the Glitter Flake 302. All right, looks like we have all the questions answered. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. And we will be back with you again soon. Have a great rest of your week and happy Monday.